3. And this is going to determine whether or not Bronze Army gets to bring it into Game 3, or if Reborn's going to hop on that plane to North Carolina.
Yeah, it is match point for Reborn. If they do win this, they've got that ticket. They've secured themselves a place in the final, one of the top 2 teams, as we've been saying, and they will be the first potential team to make it. So Bronze Army, again, we've been saying they're the underdogs. They have all to prove it in this game. Come out and fighting. Try take this all the way to a Game 3.
And that is going to be the first bands of the game, Narbash and Rampage. Narbash for Bronze Army and Rampage for Reborn. Knowing that's one of Cranky Trash Can's power picks, they're going to try and keep that away from him. First pick of the game is going to be Decker for Bronze Army, putting that on Nabori once again, who hopefully will have a better showing this time around. And Reborn sticking to the same strategy they did last time, taking the Morgish and the Bellica.
Yeah, really quick picks from Reborn. They got the picks they wanted, to put the pressure onto Bronze Army now. Get the time ticking on their side, force them to try go for a pick a bit sooner, give them less time to think about it. Because if you sit there ticking down the clock on Reborn, it gives Bronze Army more chance to talk, deliberate, say what we want to pick and ban. If you know what you want, tick it, force the Bronze Army now to be put under pressure, ready as you saw hit in some of that extra time.
And there it is, 10 seconds of the extra time being used, but they're very quick to pick up their next 2 picks. It's going to be Kwong and Gadget this time around. Taboo is pretty familiar with Gadget. Going to be a little interesting to see how he plays this one out, because you don't need to be as careful on your timing with your ultimate and Gadget. You can kind of drop it where you need to, when you need to, whereas Gideon needs to play around his positioning. He needs to be more opportunistic on his play. We are seeing NATO State pick up Revenant once again.
Really favoring the Revenant. We didn't see it yesterday. A lot of teams, as I mentioned, went for other picks, but Reborn still doing really well. Despite the nerfs that have come through, he's been performing exceptionally on it, and that is a Chimera, guys.
Oh,
I love Chimera. I've been playing him a lot. But the main issue I have with Bronze Army's composition, they do not have a phase with the Chimera, and that can actually be punished quite heavily. The extra regen from phase is kind of why you pick Chimera a lot of the time nowadays. The duo combination keeps him alive, allows him to consistently jump time and time again if you put the boost onto him. And that is one of the main reasons you pick him. That might also be their downfall. But still has early strong power, really good effective ganks in the early stages of the game, and I want to see if Cranky Trash Can actually get a couple of kills here and start this sort of snowball that Chimera is known to do.
Here's the thing about Chimera, though, Gems, is Chimera is very much a feast or famine hero. You need to get that early game aggression off. You need those early ganks and card points to help sustain yourself into the mid and late game. If for whatever reason, someone, let's say, decides to invade your jungle and maybe kill you early on in the game or deny you some farm, you're going to be stuck there just trying to farm up and card yourself just to stay even with you. Not ahead. Even is at best what you're going to do. And that is a very risky pick for Cranky to pull off, because we saw the aggression of Reborn. We saw the control that they pulled off into the enemy jungle. So taking the Chimeras in here is going to be really hard. I would just like to see something more like a Grux. Cranky's really good with Grux. It's his staple hero. And he probably will do a little more with that.
I'm also interested to see what build we see from this Chimera. There's a number of different builds. There's the build... We see sort of the Mad Sport tanky build with the Thermobomb in the later stages of the game. Chimera, which decides with the regen stacks, with the tanky stats, can just sit there hitting away with the axes, building up stacks for health and trying to survive as long as you can, while also having that AoE aura of the Mad Sport just doing damage, which I really like, because that partnered with a phase makes you pretty much unkillable. However, without that, it's going to be reliant on things like quenching onto the pure to keep him alive.
Now, what I'd like to see on Chimera is an Armivore. That's what I'd like to see. That card is actually it's starting to show more popularity into people's games, but having run it myself, you do not run out of mana. That card is godly. You don't need the river buff for sustain. You don't need to back. You have health regen from your passive. You have mana regen from Armivore. And that thing lets you stay through the entire way. You can gank all day long, no issues.
Yeah, but we also have to look at Reborn's composition as well. They have that howitzer. the Make It Rain, the Displacement Mine is also an incredible strong tool that beats Chimera in a lot of cases. Chimera tries to jump, ambush someone, this mine straight away, gone, cancels his engagement for the next couple of seconds. Same with the Subjugate, same with the Seismic Assault and Bellica. All these are incredibly strong tools that can try and shut down the Chimera's early stages as well. And it's going to be up to Reborn to time these abilities, make sure the Cull doesn't hit onto Revenant or Moragesh. Those are sort of the two prime targets you want to get.
Whose team comp do you prefer? Like, based on the comps that we see, disregard last game.
I really think Reborn's is a lot stronger. As I mentioned, you don't have the phase Chimera combo. You're heavily reliant in the early stages of the game. If Reborn do what they did in the game before, we're going to get the same sort of problem.
And here we are into game. It's game 2. We've done a lot of talking. Now we get some playing underway. Bronze Army versus Reborn. We had a very early aggression starting off last time with Reflect picking up the very first blood only 40 seconds into the game. And it looks like they're going for a repeat of that process as both teams are grouping up as 5 into the jungle. They're starting off with a ward, you know, making sure everything's ready. They're waiting for Bronze Army to jump in so they can go on to that. But it looks like Bronze Army is going to be playing a lot safer this time around, and Reborn's going to follow up with that one by hopping in and, you know, warding up the off lane on their own.
Yeah, they're just going to get a couple of wards here. No early game aggression from either side here. And before we talk about that, let's introduce the teams again. We do see Nadosic on that Revenant, Master Splinter on the Bellica, J. Leo on that Severog, Reflect on Moragesh, and Solo Nazgul. And that is Reborn, guys. You know them time and time again. Let's have a look at Bronze Army.
All right, Bronze Army, Cranky Trash Can in the jungle with the Grux Pelt Chimera. Miso Sneaky now going for a dual mid lane strategy to repeat what Reborn did last game. We already have first blood in the game. Nadosic picking up the kill onto Taboo in the off lane. It's going to be very, very unfortunate for Bronze Army, once again losing first blood this early on to the game. Well, since we're there, Taboo is Gadget. We have Nabori on Decker once again, and Joshua, also known to the community as Appy Picker, is going to be the Kwong.
Yeah. What I saw here at this beginning of the match is that Bronze Army wanted to sort of counteract that duo mid by sending their own duo mid. However, Reborn decided to change it up and then put this really difficult lane for Taboo. Because of this switch up, Taboo's now got this 2v1. That's incredibly hard for the Gadget, and he's already fallen down in the early stages of the game. The Seismic Assault with the Obliterate is a huge amount of damage, and it's going to give, as we can see, Nadosic that lead already with 1 kill on the board, 5 points, already 1 point ahead on the board from everyone else.
Joshua fighting Reflect in the left lane, getting a nice chunk of damage down on the Moragesh as Taboo is back into his side of the map. Just 30 seconds from the first round of River Ruff spawning into the game, and we haven't seen a whole lot of aggression come out of the mid lane. They haven't utilized that duo mid lane strategy just yet, which they really should be doing. They should punish that Severog like Reborn did to them.
Yeah, J. Leo should be punished if they have the capability to do it. However, Chimera electing to try and get this level 3 is a little bit behind and is clear. Hasn't actually managed to hit it before the river bust, which is a little bit slow for Chimera, which is going to impact this fight here as well.
And we do have Nabori trying to get the blue buff, but J. Leo's right beside him to secure that. And he's going to actually be able to get away using the stasis bomb as his own self-peel. One of the strengths of taking dual mid is having the aggression, having the capability to gain that map control in the early game and flex a little bit of muscle, you know, control the enemy jungle. However, I find that only works on specific teams. It's a player-based situation, because if you're going duo mid and your players are more passive, you have a more passive mindset, you're kind of wasting the opportunity. Yeah,
they are. It's already slowly building a lead for Reborn because of the way they set this up, because we're not seeing the aggression, as you mentioned, from Bronze Army. Reborn's got this 2v1 lane that's going to consistently put pressure on this tower. It looks like they want to get this early tower. They aren't freezing it. They want to try push it and then rotate to the next point in the map.
All right, and we do have, I believe, what is going to be the first tower of the game going down in just a moment. for Nadosic. He's going to be securing that one. Tab would not be able to do a lot about it. Gadget mines are a little too costly on mana early game.
Yeah, they are. It does allow him to get that farm. That's kind of all he really wants at this point. Get as much farm as he can in this 2v1. Try and get those points accumulated just to survive mainly, and be in a position where you can get that Tesla's Dome and then look for fights with that.
Seems to be the case. River Bus spawning once again for round 2 in 10 seconds. As Reflect and Joshua are beginning to duke it out. Taking that hive damage will be the Kwang. He's going to throw out the Judgment of the Heavens to get a little bit of damage off onto Reflect as he goes to back. But I don't think that's going to dissuade Reflect from doing a whole lot. He's actually going to rotate over and steal the gold buff away from Kwang.
Yeah, they are. And it looks like Cranky is going to grab this red buff. And we do see the blue buff going over on the side of Solo and Nazgul. So one river buff each to either side. Not much more going to happen from this. Cranky still trying to power farm through his jungle, trying to get that cull available. Hasn't had the sort of early game ganks, but once he gets the cull is where we're most likely going to see him try and look to make a couple of plays.
All right, and it seems to be the case as we do have... Has Cranky invaded yet?
Now, Cranky hasn't really done any sort of ganks or anything. He hasn't backed. He's been hard farming the entire time. He's sitting on 4 points, which is going to try and get him an early level 5. However, we can already see Reborn here trying to take this offlane jungle.
And they are rotating in, but it's going to be Bronze Army looking to keep that secured as Reborn is going to just kind of walk away, make sure they don't make any major mistakes as to what's going on over here.
No, they are. It's going to be Reborn just trying to steal a little bit of resources. J-Leo still sitting on that Oasis Siphon, and Guardian's Ward might want to back when he gets a couple more points, grab the early Mad Spore. By selling that Oasis Siphon gives you that health regen and a much, much needed boost in clear speed for Sephiroth.
And there is Sevarog going to continue to stack up. J-Leo very good at that. Now, one thing a lot of people give J-Leo for credit for on Sevarog is his ability to maintain his stacks and continue to gank. And now something I've noticed is what he does is at some point in the mid game, when there's a bit of a lull and time to farm, J-Leo will actually take control of a lane and freeze it and get the CP and stacks of a lane instead of continue to look at his jungle. And that's where he's able to sustain those early game farm that he actually is known for getting.
Yeah, you can just go and steal some farm from when there's a bit of a dull period in the game, as sort of we're seeing right now, where neither team is wanting to just go for a big fight or an early game fight, where it can be incredibly risky at this point of the game to do that. Getting a 3 or 4 point card lead at this point will just give you a completed card with bonuses. That'll be a difference about 30 power, maybe a couple extra health, 100 health, and that can actually be devastating around the fight on Raptors.
And Raptors are going to be spawning just over 2 minutes right now. And it's going to be, you know, I think it's going to be pretty quiet like we saw last game until Raptors spawn. And then we might see a little bit of aggression coming out of both teams that are trying to secure that first Raptor. We have Joshua rotating back into his lane, trying to stop Morgash from peeling or pushing any further. And Morgash is going to punish that with a little bit of a hive damage, and that's going to chip away some of the health of the Kwang. J-Leo now rotating in, looking for the buff. It will not be there, but he's hovering around the top. And in the right lane, it's going to be Taboo picking up a kill, this time on to Master Splinter.
Enemy has been slain.
And that's going to be, looking at that, in the mid lane, it's going to be pushed down by Reborn.
They are pushing it down right now. They do decide to just back off, go for this green buff here. J-Leo Nazgul duo is going to be able to potentially secure this. Whether or not we're going to see a rotation from side of Bronze Army, doesn't look like it. That is a green buff going over to the side of Reborn. Yet again, doing the jungle invade that we saw in the previous game. Without the duo, without the sort of 3-man combo, just with the 2-man combo of Solo Nazgul and J-Leo, and they aren't going to get punished for it. And it's going to give J-Leo a couple more points. He's sitting now at 11 points. Cranky Trash also at 11. So, but no sort of green buff activation, no good fights right now, which means that Wow, going for the subjugate from the air onto Joshua.
Actually, man, Jelena Joshua looking to go for the extra peel, using the Fury of the Heavens to try and get himself back under the tower. However, he gets hit by the Hive. He's using the Light of the Heavens to add that armor, and it's going to help out. So he might be able to get away, and he is safe. Oh my God.
13 HP. Just barely making it out of that. I like the sort of Fury of the Heavens escape to try and do the sort of switcheroo. Reflect did catch on to it, but it just wasn't enough. Just one auto, I think, missed by Reflect would have been the difference of the kill there.
And it was really smart of Joshua using the Light of the Heavens to get that extra armor on him, as he knew Reflect was going to bring out the ultimate and stab him in the face. But that's what saved the day, you know, using your abilities more creatively, using it to defend yourself from long range. And ultimately, that's the only thing that kept him alive from the extra damage of that Hive.
Yeah, just the bonus armor from the abilities of Kwang. And again, Raptors are up, but a lot of cooldowns have been used before. Cranky's looking to go for this, but his team aren't in position yet.
And we do see a good drone being dropped by Master Splinter off in the corner, sapping the mana out. Jay Leo getting picked up as he gets culled by Cranky Trash Can, and Miso Sneaky does the extra shot just to secure the kill. They're now engaging on. It's 1-for-1 trade. Cranky Trash Can coming in from behind, jumping on to Nadosic, who picks up a kill onto Sneaky. He's trying to run away. He might be able to get out, and he's dead. However, he's going to take the Decker with him, as it's now Trash Can versus 2. Master Splitter's going to miss the seismic assault, as Cranky's doing what he can to go out with a bang. He will not get the kill. Taboo in the corner, throwing out a sticky mine, not doing enough damage. I think if Cranky Trash Can went over to the black buff, picked it up, and then continued the engage, that might have actually gone a little more favorable for him. If he had Armivore, he would have been able to get the mana sustain throughout the fight to continue leaping onto his targets at the ambush.
The main issue I had in that fight is that Cranky just walked around the wall, so he ended up losing a lot of his stacks that he built up from the fight beforehand that he was hitting onto Nado. And he didn't have that extra little bit of regen that could have potentially swung that around. However, the Raptors are still up. It looks like Reborn are going to go for the other Raptors that are remaining. I think there are 2 left, I believe.
Yeah, we have 2 Raptors left, and Reborn's jumping right back on top of them. Overall, I think Bronze Army's having a stronger showing this game than they did last game. They're actually, you know, trying to add a little pressure onto the map and contest a few things, even if it's not completely working out in their favor. They're still making the attempt for doing it, and I feel like that's important on its own. Nice seismic assault from Master Splinter, catching 3 through the wall. It's going to be a big engagement as we have both the Tesla Dome and the Make It Rain going out from the mages on both teams. That's yet another kill, 3 for 1. Master Splinter picking up his own, and he's going to go in. Another seismic assault as Reflect runs in on Moragesh. And that is a full ace. Started off by Master Splinter getting an amazing knockup on 3, allowing his team to follow up immediately after, and then ultimately wiping out everyone on Bronze Army.
Even though Cranky was able to get on to Nadosic, the point difference that they already accumulated meant that the re-engage and that 3-man knockup from Master Splinter completely turned that fight around. The combo coming out with the Moragesh, the Hive, the slow sort of was perfectly timed and allowed Master Splinter to get that knockup because of the slow through the wall, and absolutely loved it.
That does seem to be the case. And now we are seeing that lead for Reborn really starting to show. We have Solo Nazgul at 20. Meanwhile, Taboo's at 16. Nadosic 23. Miso Sneaky 17. It's starting to really snowball in their favor.
Yeah, it really is. And you can see Jay Leo's at 17 points. Cranky's at 16. Even though Jay Leo's got a couple of kills, he's actually been keeping up in Varm this game, Cranky Trash Can. Before, I think on the Several, he had it a little bit rougher. He's doing okay this game. Has managed to have some good favorable engages. He's managed to get the call onto primary targets. However, it just isn't much else he can do because he has to go so far in without the phase, as we were talking about. He has no real way to escape once he manages to take down Nado. So even though he does, it ends up nearly always being a 1-for-1 trade.
And there is going to be an engagement in the mid lane as the tether is dropped down by Joshua, following up with the fury of the heavens. Cranky Trash Can going with the ambush, and NATO has to burn his own ultimate just to try and add a little bit of safety to him, but he might go down. He has very little health, and Joshua is right behind him. Belka looking to do a good job of healing. And oh, the tether goes down, but it's just going to miss. Overall, big burst of damage on both teams, yet no kills were managed to be obtained at the time. Cranky Trash Can in a lot of trouble as the team is rotating over to him, and as I just said, no one dies, Cranky dies. Reflect picking up the kill onto the Chimera. Really
sort of good initiative for us at Bronze Army. They got a good jump onto NATO. However, because of the point difference, because they didn't have the most amount of damage, they weren't able to kill him. He was able to survive using that ultimate of his to get into the Nether Realm. And it's brilliant play from Reborn. They back out perfectly, and it allows them to survive. And we're looking at builds right now. We also see Joshua has got that Radiant Mantle on the board. Nibori also has a Radiant Mantle.
Four Radiate passives on the board. We're seeing Cranky, Josh, Nibori, and Taboo all running either Radiant Mantle or Mad Spore Sash, getting that aura damage off. It's gonna be interesting how that plays out, because I haven't seen a whole team run this before.
Well, depending on how long they can survive during these fights, long fights will be heavily in their favor. However, they need more regen, but we are seeing Thick Blood from Reflex. He can hit a hive onto about 3 or 4 different members, reducing sort of the healing capabilities from like quenching and things like that to slow down the survivability here that they're trying to build. They're trying to make fights last longer, get that radiant damage stacking over time, just taking along. But to do that, the survivability needs to be there. But with cards, as I mentioned, like Thick Blood, makes it incredibly difficult.
And that's one of the other reasons that I forgot to mention why Chimera wasn't that great of a pick this game, because you picked Chimera, who needs his health regen just to do his job, into a Moragesh, who's obviously going to take Thick Blood. That's her thing. So you hurt yourself in draft right off the bat. Master Splinter dropping down the drone. Great landmine coming out of Sola Nazgul as he goes to the R2000 rocket. NATO following up with the Obliterate, and Nibori getting caught out and killed once again. That's going to be a 4v5 as Reborn continues to go on to Joshua, caught out by Orb Prime Pit himself, and they're going to continue that push. No one's able to help him. And it's going to be Master Splinter picking up the kill through the wall with the Seismic Assault. In the right lane, Reborn starting the push.
Are they going to go for this push, or are they going to back up, maybe even potentially go for a prime 16 minutes into the game? They can do it very quickly with a full 5-man team. However, it looks like they just want to get these towers. You can see J-Leo pushing in mid. They're going for the safer textbook plays that we see them do time and time again. Get a couple of these towers, take the lead that they've accumulated, back, spend their points, and then reset for another similar fight.
Cranky Trash Can going in the mid lane, trying to stop J-Leo from taking the tower. He's going to blow the gull just to try and, add that extra damage off. J-Leo almost dying, but successfully able to take the tower and then get away with his life. He's going to pick up the purple up on the right side and then go for the back with the rest of Reborn. Now having a strong footing, taking down the jet pads of Bronze Army. They can go for prime here.
NATO was sitting on 6 points. Splinter was sitting on a couple of points. J-Leo was sitting on about 3 to 4 points. It was the same across the board. They all had enough to go back to buy. Master Splinter's also got that stasis gem on the support. So he can go in, he can go for that Seismic Assault. He can then just stasis himself, even though he might be in an unfavorable position. Stall the fight a little bit, allows his team to get into position, and he can carry on.
All right, and they are looking to maybe go for an invade in the enemy jungle. Sola Nazgul just watching. Both teams are warded and aware there are people nearby, just kind of going for the bit of a standoff as Raptors have spawned and the team is rotating in. It's going to be interesting to see how Bronze Army goes for it. Will they go for the prime like they did last time, or are they going to go in and try and contest the Raptors? And it looks like they are, as Sola Nazgul blinks in. Containment Fence goes down and hits 2. Sola Nazgul falling up to make it rain on the entire enemy team, blowing them up. Jay Leo now going in with the colossal blow onto Joshua. He's trying to get away. He uses the fear of the heavens to get up to the gold buff, but Solo Nazgul's right there with the Teleblake to pick up a kill onto Joshua, who thought he was safe, caught lazy backing. That's going to be a nice triple kill as Reborn goes back onto the Raptors and continuing business as usual.
Really, really good play, specifically from Master Splinter. He is hitting that seismic assault, that knock-up on 2 to 3 members, and that is then being chained with a subjugate from the side of Jay Leo all over that Make It Rain. They don't have the Deca, but they do have enough.
Either.
They don't have it, but they have enough change CCs that they can make the Make It Rain do the majority of its damage by using that sort of crowd control combo they've been setting up.
And it looked like a pretty good engagement coming out of Navori. That was a very well-placed containment field. However, the entire team was standing dead center for Solo Nazgul to just drop the ultimate and just lay waste to the enemy team. And he did it. That was probably one of the best ultimates from Howitzer I've seen in the PCL so far.
Yeah, really, really well timed. It's one of those things you have to time it, because if you do it a bit too late, people walk out of it, sort of thing. You're not in the best position where the fight's going to happen. If you do it too early, you end up missing on the last couple of ticks of damage potentially. If the fight's not going in your favor, you really want to get the last couple of seconds of the ultimate. It's where the biggest amount of damage actually occurs. So really well played with the timings. Was incredibly helped out by his team, because as I was talking about, that crowd control stack, subjugate into the knockup is long enough for that Howitzers Make It Rain to do it the full amount of damage.
We are seeing Reborn on to Prime right now, and they're continuing to burst that down. It's going to be Nabori, the first one of the fight, getting knocked up once again. Subjugate hitting 2 onto the mid lane and support. Sneaky's going to get there. He's getting caught out and completely blown up. And that is going to be yet another pick, as now Cranky Trash Can's in a lot of trouble. His team's just leaving him for dead. Seismic Assault goes out and will miss. Scar waiting for the Obliterate to finish the job, and there it is for NATO, picking up yet another kill. River spawning at 21 minutes, giving yet another advantage to Reborn, as they can use that to get some sustain, get some extra damage, go back onto Prime. There's nothing that Bronze Army can do at this point.
They really can't do anything. There's 2 down already on the board, and it's looking to be Reborn's game yet again. They've accumulated such a huge lead in power. NATO's 35 points, 9 points ahead of the majority of the side of Bronze Army. They've now secured that Prime, which gives them an even more power and sort of increase as well. Will they recall, or will they carry on just with this push? They have this big minion wave already set up here on the Prime side of the map.
Now, one thing I would like to confirm with you, Gems, I'm not too sure if my replay's bugged, but I'm seeing Nabori at level 6. Is that accurate?
I believe so. It looks fine to me on my side. He is a little bit behind in levels.
All right. So it does seem that Reborn is now going to push down that inhibitor. They're not going to get contested at all by Bronze Army. They're just going to let it happen. And we're hitting the point in the game where now Bronze Army is just watching Reborn play the game. And that's never a good sign, because you really just nail in the coffin at this point.
But they can't really go for that fight. They kind of have to just give it up. If they go for a fight there while the Prime's happening, it's extremely unfavorable for them. They, at the bare minimum, want to wait it out. It's going to be one of those things, acceptable losses that Bronze Army just have to take right now in this stage of the game. Reborn have such a huge lead. They really need to just hope that Reborn makes a big mistake, and they manage to sort of get a couple of picks that then gives them a snowball into the next Prime. That's kind of what they're hoping on. They really need Reborn to make a big blunder, and for them to capitalize heavily on that.
Now, one thing that Bronze Army needs to do to help win this game, or help give them the advantage and keep them in the game, is in the early game, utilize that duo mid. Reborn is known for having a weaker early game. You're able to actually flex on Reborn in the early game. That's the chink in their armor. That's where you need to expose the weakness. It's once they hit the mid game and the late game, the team fighting, the decision making, the strategy that Reborn is so good at is where they're able to pick up and start getting their lead. So if you let them have the early game to do what they want and just farm up, you're guaranteed going to have a hard time in late game, without question.
Uria, and as we can see, they're just going to take this tier 2 down. They've got the prime side of the minions pushing in with the buffed up inhibitor being down, and they're going to go for the second inhibitor. Textbook play yet again from Reborn.
And there is yet another inhib going down, uncontested by Bronze Army. It's on the left side, inhib on the right side, also down. All they need is mid, and basically, at that point, it's a waiting game.
Yeah, they're going to do the rotation. They're going to use the most of this prime that I believe has just run out now. They managed to get 2 inhibitors with that prime. It's an extremely successful one from the side of Reborn. They have enough of a point lead to carry on with this push that they'd set up as well.
And here it is, T2 going down. This is the last stand for Bronze Army. He's Cranky Trash Gang going to jump straight on the NATO Sick. Quenching Seals going up to help out, and the Cull going to be absorbed by the Honor the Pure from Master Splinter. Jay Leo joining the fight to zone out, but Reflect is on the back line, getting me so sneaky as Cranky Trash Gang picks up a kill onto Soul and Nazgul. That's still 3, now 4 down for Bronze Army. Cranky Trash Gang, the last one alive, just jumping onto Reflect. He's actually walking away, going to core, and I think he's just going to let the game go as it is. There's not much a Chimera can do to stop a 5-man push with 3 inhibs down. Nope.
No, as the waves are slowly pushing in, will we see our first finalist here being Reborn?
I believe that will be the case. Tranky Trash Can versus the world. The question is, can he do it? Because Reborn doesn't have a lot of health. Now Nabori is up to help, throwing out the stasis bomb and landing onto Jay Leo. Tranky Trash Can is going in with the ambush, gets blown up by the Obliterate. He's going down to Master Splinter, and that is the core. 2-0 victory for Reborn. They're going to North Carolina. They're the first finalist for the NA qualifiers. Congratulations to them, showing such an amazing series over the past qualifier in this entire month.
They've been on form. Bronze Army, even though a lot of people were